Hi everyone, I will take you through making one of these little hats at some point in time. Just for the moment though, I really want to show you for the Itty Bitty pattern and the Titchy pattern as well, when I'm actually doing the 2DCs together in the one stitch. So it's not a reduction stitch and it's not an increase stitch, but the stitches are worked together so that even though you're doing two in the one stitch, you just end up with one stitch for the next round. And I know it's a little bit confusing. So what I thought I'd do is I'll show you that particular stitch, and then I will come back at some point in time when I'm making, because I will be making some more little beanies soon. I will make a video of one of the smaller size beanies because that's the quickest, I guess, to work up. And the stitches are exactly the same, obviously, except for these special 2DC together cluster stitches. But otherwise, all the stitches are the same for the bigger beanies. So it should give you all that you need to know, essentially, to make any of the sizes of the Vintage Vibes beanie. Okay, so it's this stitch we're looking at. And so what it would be is working into this particular stitch. So the middle stitch of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches, and that would be the same thing as if you were working your beanie. I'm just working just a small example across, as I don't have a beanie that I'm making right at the moment. So I've started to make the motif, and this is the second round of it. And then in between the motifs on this round, if I work just a double crochet stitch alone, and then I start on the next motif, it doesn't give it a very nice finish. So to give a bit more of a boundary between the motifs, but to still get enough motifs in around for one of these really tiny hats, I'm working the 2 double crochet together cluster stitch instead. So as I was saying before, it's not an increase stitch and it's not a decrease stitch. So sometimes you can work 2 DCs together over 2 separate stitches and that gives you a decrease, or you can work 2 DCs together in one stitch to give you an increase. But we're not doing either with this particular stitch. We're just maintaining the stitch count, but we're just making it a little bit fatter, the stitch a bit fatter, so that it separates those motifs a little bit better. So similar principle to working 2 DCs together over 2 separate stitches. Yarn over hook, pull the yarn through, yarn over hook, pull through 2 loops. Now again we're going to go into that very same stitch all over again. So yarn over hook, insert the hook, pull a loop through, yarn over hook, pull through 2 loops. And now we're going to do yarn over hook and pull through all 3 loops on hook. So it just gives you a little bit of a separation, better separation between those motifs. And as you can see, for the next round, it's only made 1 stitch. So we're maintaining the stitch count. So we've got 2 stitches in the 1 stitch that results in the 1 stitch from this round that will result in 1 stitch for the next round. So hopefully that makes it a little bit clearer as to what you need to do and what you need to achieve for the next round. So we definitely should only have 1 stitch into that same, made from that same stitch for the next round. But we're just making it, the separation of those motifs, a little bit more obvious by having a bit of a fatter stitch in there. So I hope that helps. I mean, the other option too, you could always do if you wanted, is to do a 3DC cluster as well. There's no harm in that. It's the same principle. And what you end up with is 4 loops on the hook that you pull through. And you just have a slightly fatter again stitch. So that's totally doable too if you want to work it that way, and that would be make a sweet little hat as well. Entirely leave it up to you. The only thing you need to remember is that when you've finished that cluster together stitch, that you should only have 1 stitch that results for the next round. Otherwise your stitch count will get thrown out. Okay, I hope that's helped a little bit. I will actually make one of these little hats when I need to. I've got a blanket that I'm working out in the same pattern, and I will need to make a little hat with that. So what I'll probably do is use the Itty Bitty pattern because it's in worsted weight rather than DK, which the pattern's for. But if you make the Itty Bitty in worsted weight, it gives you a nice probably 0 to 3 month hat. Or if you make the Titchy hat in worsted weight. It will give you like a nice small newborn sized hat. So yeah, I'll show you those when I get to the stage of needing to make those up. All right, bye.